The morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, warmly illuminating the small dining table. Emily Johnson stirred the pancake batter with practiced hands while trying to fix her son's bedhead as he sat in the chair next to her. Ryan had just turned 6 and was still rubbing his sleepy eyes, trying to escape his mother's hands. "Mom, my hair's fine. I'm hungry." All right, it'll be ready soon, so just wait a little longer," Emily answered with a smile. There wasn't a trace of fatigue in her voice. Every day was a battle of busyness as a single mother, but the morning time with her son was a treasure beyond anything else. When the butter melted in the frying pan and a wonderful aroma rose up, Ryan twitched his nose and smiled happily. Emily's heart warmed every time she saw her son's reaction. It was a small family of just the two of them, but moments like this were all the happiness she needed. "Today's Saturday. There's no school, so how about we make cookies together later?" "Yay! Chocolate chip cookies." "That's right. But before that, I have work at the bakery, so can you wait a little bit?" The small bakery Emily ran, Sweet Morning, was a beloved presence in this residential neighborhood. For 3 years, she had continued the routine of getting up at 4 every morning to knead dough and arrange freshly baked bread and pastries. It was never easy work, but the local people supported her warmly. Mrs. Williams, a regular customer, came to buy croissants every morning and always gave Ryan candy. The young couple Tom and Sarah would order Emily's special lemon tarts on weekends and spend time happily drinking coffee in the small cafe space. The time when she walked Ryan to school was the most precious time of the day. Walking the 3 blocks while holding his small hand, her son would tell her one thing after another about what happened yesterday and his plans for today. How his classmate Jacob brought a new game, how he got a perfect score on his math test, how delicious the pizza was at lunch. The world of a 6-year-old was full of surprises and discoveries, and Emily could share that pure joy with her son. "Mom, I'm going to see Daddy next weekend, right?" At Ryan's casual words, Emily's expression clouded for a moment. She had divorced her ex-husband Michael 2 years ago, but according to the visitation arrangement, Ryan was supposed to see his father twice a month. It was a time that brought complex feelings for Emily, but she also understood that his father was an important presence for her son. "That's right. You're looking forward to seeing Papa, aren't you?" "Yes. But I'm a little sad to be away from Mom." Emily gently drew her son's shoulders to her. "It's okay. You'll come back soon, right? Then let's watch a movie together next time." The afternoon hours at the bakery were fulfilling time for Emily. Casual conversations with local people, the aroma of freshly baked bread, customer smiles. Everything gave meaning to her life. Especially in conversations with mothers who brought their children, she could share the worries and joys of being a single mother herself. When evening came and she went to pick up Ryan, her son would always excitedly tell her about what happened at school. And when they got home, it was time to make cookies as promised. Watching her son working hard to knead the dough with his small hands, Emily felt truly happy. When the vanilla scent from the oven spread throughout the house, the two looked at each other and laughed. At night, after Ryan fell asleep, Emily spent time alone in the quiet living room. She would read books, prepare for the next day's bakery work, or sometimes enjoy exchanging emails with friends. She was never lonely. She believed that with the bond with her son, she could overcome any difficulty. Their small world of just the two of them was perfect. There was love, trust, and hope for tomorrow. Every night before going to sleep, Emily prayed that these peaceful days would continue forever. Saturday mornings were special. Without the rush of weekdays, Emily could slowly savor the time with her son. The fragrant smell of frying bacon drifted from the kitchen, and Ryan watched with interest as the pancake batter turned a beautiful golden color on the frying pan. "Mom, today's pancakes are especially big. It's Saturday. Special days call for special pancakes," Emily answered with a smile, warming the maple syrup. Weekend breakfast was a small luxury for the two of them. On weekdays, they were often pressed for time and settled for simple breakfast, but Saturday was different. Ryan was happily devouring his pancakes with syrup around his mouth. Just watching that innocent expression warmed Emily's heart. Moments like this were the most valuable time in her life. "Hey, Mom," Ryan suddenly called out. "I'm going to Daddy's today, right?"
Can you imagine making $10,000 a month just from YouTube, all from home? That's exactly what I did with Reddit Stories. No face, no voice. Check the link in the description if you're curious.
Emily paused for a moment but quickly regained her smile. "That's right. You're looking forward to seeing your father, aren't you?" "Yes. But I'm a little sad to be away from Mom," Ryan expressed his honest feelings. For a 6-year-old child, his parents' divorce was too complex an event, but he was trying to understand the situation in his own way. "It's okay. You'll have a good time with your father and come back tomorrow evening, right? Then let's read a new book together next time." Emily tried to ease her son's anxiety. Even though 2 years had passed since the divorce, she always felt a tightening in her chest before visitation days. Her married life with Michael had never been a happy one. Emily had endured for a long time his short temper and the problem of his personality changing when he drank. However, his father remained an important presence for Ryan, and she continued the visits with her son's feelings as the top priority. After finishing breakfast, Ryan packed his change of clothes and favorite book in his small backpack. Emily helped her son prepare while checking that everything necessary was ready. Medicine, toothbrush, pajamas, and a card with contact information for emergencies. "Mom, if anything happens, I'll call you right away." Emily was a little surprised by Ryan's words. She hadn't thought that a 6-year-old child would think about such things. "Anything? What kind of thing?" "Well, I don't really know, but sometimes I get worried about things," Ryan answered vaguely. Emily couldn't tell if it was a child's special intuition or if there was some specific reason. "You don't need to worry. But if there's anything that concerns you, don't hesitate to call me. Mommy is always on your side." Michael came to pick him up around 10 in the morning. Emily exchanged simple greetings at the front door and saw Ryan off. Her ex-husband's expression was as stiff as ever, and his conversation with Emily was kept to the necessary minimum. By following the visitation rules decided during the divorce, the two somehow maintained peace. After seeing Ryan get into his father's car, Emily returned to the house wrapped in silence. She was a little surprised at how quiet the house, usually lively with her son's voice and footsteps, could feel. However, this silence was never lonely. Rather, she saw it as a precious opportunity to have time to herself. Emily brewed hot coffee and sat in her favorite reading chair. Through the window, she could see the neighboring gardens, and the autumn afternoon sunlight created beautiful shadows. The book she picked up was a novel recommended by a friend. In her busy daily life, time to read a book leisurely like this was precious. When she immersed herself in the world of the novel, she forgot the passage of time. The story of the female protagonist overcoming difficulties and building a new life had parts that overlapped with Emily's own experiences. While looking back on her own journey of starting the bakery and building a new life after the divorce, she was captivated by the story's development. In the afternoon, Emily started cleaning the house. Usually, with her son around, she couldn't do thorough cleaning, but today she could carefully tidy up every corner. While organizing Ryan's room, she found a family picture her son had drawn. The picture drawn with crayons showed Emily and Ryan holding hands and smiling. There was no father figure. Emily hugged the picture to her chest. Did her son feel that their small family was complete? Or did he feel lonely about his father's absence? The heart of a 6-year-old child was complex and sometimes held much deeper emotions than adults. In the evening, Emily began preparing for tomorrow's breakfast. She checked the ingredients for French toast that Ryan liked and confirmed that there were enough fresh eggs and milk. When her son came back, he would surely tell her about his time with his father. Good things, and perhaps worrying things too. Emily was prepared to listen to her son's stories. While preparing dinner in the kitchen, Emily looked out the window. Warm light leaked from the neighboring houses, and dinner time was about to begin in each home. Each house had its own story, and they were probably living their days while holding both joy and sorrow. Emily and Ryan's small family was one of those countless stories. Sitting on the living room sofa, drinking warm herbal tea while reading a magazine, the ringtone of her cell phone broke the silence. The screen displayed Ryan. Emily smiled as she was about to answer the phone. Calls from her son weren't unusual. Sometimes he would call his mother from his father's house to report trivial things. However, the voice that came from the receiver wasn't Ryan's usual bright voice. What she heard from the receiver was her son's trembling voice. "Mom." "Ryan? What's wrong?" Emily tensed up instantly. The urgency in her son's voice awakened her maternal instincts. "Mom, please. Leave the house right now. Hurry." Ryan's voice was small, as if he was afraid of being overheard by someone. There was nothing audible in the background. In the eerie silence, only her son's breathing could be heard. "Ryan, what happened? Where's your father?" Emily stood up and walked around the living room with the cell phone pressed to her ear. Her heart was beating violently. "No, there's no time. Mom, please, really. Leave the house right now. Go far away in the car." Her son's voice was trembling with tears. A 6-year-old child had never been this desperate before. Alarms rang in Emily's head. There was no time to ask for reasons. If her son was asking for help, she had to respond to it. "I understand. I'll leave right now. Are you okay? Are you somewhere safe?" "Yes, but hurry. Please, Mom." The call ended. Emily stared at her cell phone for a few seconds. Her son's urgent voice wouldn't leave her ears. She had no idea what was happening, but there was one thing that was certain. Ryan had sent her a warning. Emily acted without hesitation. First, she grabbed her wallet and bag and looked for her car keys. Her hands were shaking, and she couldn't find the keys that were usually in their usual place. She searched the kitchen counter, checked the table, and finally found the keys between the sofa cushions. When she tried to put on her shoes, she stopped in front of the shoe box at the entrance. There was no time. The fear in Ryan's voice urged Emily on. There was no time to put on shoes. Barefoot, with her bag over her shoulder and gripping the car keys, she headed for the front door. While running down the hallway, Emily's head was confused. Why had Ryan been so frightened? Had something happened to Michael? Or was some danger from outside approaching? The more she thought about it, the more anxious she became. But now there was no time to think. Following her son's warning was the top priority. When she put her hand on the front door, Emily's heart was beating so violently it seemed like it would jump out of her mouth. She turned the doorknob and tried to check the situation outside. She should have seen the usual quiet residential neighborhood. The neighboring house's garden, the blue car across the street, the maple tree on the street. All of it should have been familiar scenery. The moment she opened the door, Emily stepped forward one step. But at that moment, she felt something approaching from behind. When she tried to turn around, a dull impact ran through the back of her head. Rather than pain, it was a sudden feeling of pressure. Her vision turned white for a moment, then was enveloped in darkness. Her bag slipped from her hands, and the car keys fell to the floor of the entrance with a sound. Emily's body fell forward, and she knelt on the threshold of the entrance. As consciousness faded away, what floated in Emily's mind was Ryan's face. Her son's trembling voice, his desperate warning. What did he know? And why did he try to save her? In the darkness, Emily tried to call her son's name. But no voice came out. Her bodily sensations faded, and she could no longer hear sounds. The last thing she felt was the cold concrete and the sound of a car engine in the distance. Her sense of time was lost. Emily didn't know how long she had been unconscious. In the darkness, fragmentary memories came back. Ryan's phone call, hurriedly grabbing her bag, the front door, and then the impact. When consciousness faintly returned, Emily couldn't understand where she was. Her head hurt terribly, and it was difficult even to move her neck. She tried to open her eyes, but her eyelids were heavy and the light was too bright. The sounds coming from around her were completely different from the silence inside the house. Mechanical sounds, footsteps, people's voices in the distance. And most characteristic of all was the smell of disinfectant. Emily understood that she was in a hospital. However, she had no idea why she was here, how she had been brought here, and most importantly, where Ryan was. Her son's voice was echoing in her head. "Mom, leave the house right now. Hurry." Was that warning real, or was it a nightmare? But the headache and the hospital bed were real. Something had happened. And Ryan had known something. In her fading consciousness, Emily prayed for her son's safety. Where was her brave son who had tried to save her, and what was he doing now? And who had attacked her? Her memory of the moment she opened the front door was vague, but there was one thing that was certain. That attack was not accidental. Someone had been targeting her. And her 6-year-old son had known about it in advance. What had Ryan seen? What had he heard? And why had he been able to warn his mother of the danger? As consciousness faded away again, Emily was grateful for her son's courage. When the white ceiling came into view, Emily understood where she was. The hospital's characteristic fluorescent light stabbed her eyes, making her headache even worse. When she tried to move her neck a little, sharp pain shot through it. However, an emotion stronger than pain dominated her. Where was Ryan? "Mom?" A small voice was heard. Emily carefully turned her neck to the side. In a chair beside the bed, Ryan was sitting. Her son's eyes were red and swollen, and it was obvious he had been crying. However, when he noticed that his mother had woken up, he showed an expression of relief. "Ryan." Emily's voice was hoarse. "Are you okay?" "Yes, I'm okay. But I was worried about Mom." Ryan stood up from the chair and approached the bed. "Mom, I'm sorry. I should have called earlier." Emily was confused. she didn't understand the reason for her son's apology. "What are you apologizing for? You helped me." Ryan looked down. He was gripping the hem of his shirt with his small hands. "Mom, I know who did it." At those words, Emily's heart almost stopped. What could her 6-year-old son possibly know? "Who? What are you talking about?" "Daddy," Ryan's voice was trembling. "Daddy attacked Mom." Emily couldn't believe it. "Michael?" Certainly the divorce had been difficult, but she didn't think he would resort to violence. "Ryan, how do you know?" Ryan sat back down in the chair and began to speak in a small voice. "Today, when I went to Daddy's house, right? At first, it was like usual, we played games together and watched TV. But after we ate lunch, Daddy was on the phone." While listening to her son's story, Emily felt her chest tighten. To think that a 6-year-old child had been carrying such a heavy secret. Who was he talking to? "I don't really know." But Daddy's voice was different from usual. He was angry, and it was a scary voice. Ryan looked like it was painful to remember. He said, "That woman took everything from me. He said, this time, I'll settle it properly." Emily's blood drained. Had Michael harbored such deep hatred toward her? Certainly there had been disputes over property division and custody during the divorce, but she hadn't thought it was to the extent of violence. And then, after the phone call ended, Daddy took something out of his desk drawer. It was a key. He said, "This will end everything." Tears welled up in Ryan's eyes. I got scared. I didn't know what Daddy was planning to do, but I had a feeling that something bad was going to happen to Mom. Emily took her son's hand. His small hand was cold and trembling. "So you called me?" "Yes. When Daddy went to the bathroom, I secretly called. But I should have called earlier. Then Mom wouldn't have gotten hurt." "That's not true, Ryan." Emily gently touched her son's cheek. "Thanks to you, I was saved. If there hadn't been that phone call, something much worse might have happened." Actually, thanks to her son's warning, Emily had been able to make it to the front door. If she had been in the house without knowing anything, Michael might have completely captured her. Ryan's courageous action had prevented the worst-case scenario. "What kind of key do you think it was?" Emily asked. "Probably the key to Mom's house. Daddy used to say, 'just in case,' and made spare keys, remember?" Emily remembered. During their marriage, Michael had a habit of making spare keys to all kinds of places, saying it was for emergencies. After the divorce, she thought all the keys had been returned, but there was a possibility that he had secretly made copies. The hospital room door opened, and a police officer in uniform came in. She was a middle-aged female officer with a kind face. "Ms. Johnson, how are you feeling?" "I'm Detective Davis. My head hurts a little, but I'm okay," Emily answered. "We heard the circumstances from your son. He's a very brave child." Detective Davis looked at Ryan and smiled. "Based on this child's testimony and the situation at the scene, we have made an emergency arrest of your ex-husband, Michael Johnson." Emily sighed with relief. Ryan's testimony had been accepted. "The evidence found at the scene matches your son's testimony. Also, we found spare keys to your house in Mr. Johnson's apartment. So Michael is currently in custody. He's scheduled to be charged with assault. We're also investigating him for stalking and illegal entry." Ryan gripped his mother's hand tightly. "Mom, will Daddy not do bad things anymore?" "He won't anymore," Emily hugged her son. Because you protected me. Detective Davis continued in a gentle tone. Regarding this matter, we recommend that your son also receive counseling. It was too heavy an experience for a 6-year-old child. Emily nodded. How painful it must have been for Ryan to accuse his father. But her son had made that heavy decision to protect his mother. Ryan, Emily looked at her son's face. You were really brave. Thank you for protecting Mommy. I didn't want to lose Mom. Ryan began to cry. I only have Mom. Emily also shed tears. Her chest tightened at her son's pure love and the courage he had shown. It was a small family of just the two of them, but that bond was stronger than anything. Rather than his blood-related father, her son had chosen his mother. We have each other, Emily hugged her son. That's enough. 3 months later, Emily and Ryan stood hand in hand in front of the courthouse's imposing building. The sentence handed down to Michael Johnson was 3 years in prison for assault and stalking. When she saw her ex-husband in court, Emily felt complex emotions. Why had someone she had once loved become so dominated by hatred? When Michael heard the verdict, he showed an expression of regret for the first time. In the courtroom, he turned around and made eye contact with Ryan. Her son hid behind his mother while looking straight at his father. At that moment, tears welled up in Michael's eyes. He finally understood how much his actions had hurt his beloved son. The word "sorry" leaked from Michael's lips. However, Emily couldn't tell who that apology was directed toward. After the trial, Emily and Ryan began receiving counseling once a week. Dr. Reed, a specialist in children, carefully unraveled the complex emotions Ryan was carrying. The guilt about accusing his father, the self-blame for not being able to protect his mother, and anxiety about the future. These were emotions too heavy for a 6-year-old heart, but with the help of a specialist, they were gradually being healed. Ryan was very brave, Dr. Reed said to Emily one day. He made a difficult decision to protect his mother. You should be proud of that courage. The bakery, Sweet Morning, was also gradually regaining its former vitality. For a while after the incident, Emily couldn't concentrate on work. However, the warm support of regular customers and the bonds of the local community supported her. Mrs. Williams cared about Ryan's condition every day, and the young couple Tom and Sarah specially ordered cakes to liven up the store. One evening, Emily and Ryan were baking cookies together. The vanilla scent drifting through the kitchen was a symbol of peace for the two of them. While kneading the dough, Ryan suddenly spoke up. Mom, we're a real family, right? Emily understood the meaning contained in her son's question. Having lost the presence of a father, he was probably feeling anxious about their relationship of just the two of them. Of course, Emily put her hand on her son's shoulder. Family isn't just about blood relationships. If you have feelings of caring for each other and supporting each other, that's a real family. Then we're a perfect family, Ryan answered with a smile. Seeing that smile, Emily felt truly relieved. Her son had overcome the trauma of the incident and reached a new understanding. Her father's betrayal had been a painful experience, but it had made the mother-son bond even deeper. In prison, Michael was spending his days in a solitary cell. Few people came to visit him, and he had time to reflect on his actions. His son's brave behavior, the violence toward his ex-wife, and everything he had lost. In his heart that had been dominated by hatred, feelings of regret were gradually sprouting. He began writing letters. Letters of apology addressed to Emily and Ryan. However, he still didn't have the courage to send those letters. At night, after Ryan fell asleep, Emily gazed at her son's sleeping face while thinking about the power of love that this little warrior had shown her. While his blood-related father was dominated by hatred, her 6-year-old son had chosen love. Ryan had taught her that a real family is a relationship where people protect each other during difficult times. Outside the window, a new season was about to begin. Emily and Ryan's small family had become stronger after weathering the storm. A bright future awaited the two of them. A future as a true family bound by love and trust.